For your eyes only. It's Roger Moore as Ian Fleming's James Bond 007.
Nine days ago, our spy ship sunk in the Ionian Sea. She was equipped with ATAC.
Have we begun a salvage operation?
We asked Sir Timothy Havelock to secretly locate the wreck. He and his wife were killed by Hector Gonzalez. Police were able to identify Gonzalez by Melina, Sir Havelock's daughter.
Exotic ports, thrilling adventure. This Bond is for your eyes only. No one comes close to 007. When 007 comes close to you.
Forgive me, Father, for I have said.
That's putting it mildly, 007.
Now don't you forget, for your eyes only.
For Your Eyes Only is a 1981 spy film directed by John Glenn and produced by Albert R. Broccoli. The fifth film to star Roger Moore as fictional MI6 agent James Bond. It also stars Carol Bouquet, Topol, Lynn Holly Johnson, and Julian Glover. The 12th film in the James Bond franchise, produced by Eon Productions For Your Eyes Only, was written by Richard Maybaum and Michael J. Wilson. Although the script is principally based on two Ian Fleming short stories, For Your Eyes Only and Risico, some elements of the plot were also inspired by the novels Live and Let Die, Goldfinger, and On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
For your eyes only can see me through the night.
I'm Michael Wilson, producer of the James Bond films. One of the wonderful things about For Your Eyes Only was going back to a real traditional James Bond film that took you to a lot of varied locations. So we had down in the water with Corfu, and up in the mountains with Meteora, and now into the snow here at Cortina, and all the wonderful mischief James Bond and the villains can get up to in the snow. Chases with motorcycles, fights on the ice, going down a bobsled run, all the various things filled with mayhem and a lot of good fun. You see us in the middle of Cortina here. Carol Bouquet was a wonderful actress. She's fantastic in the film and had those, as John Glenn put it, those wonderful eyes. She's a young woman when she came on the film and was thrown in with the whole elaborate Bond situation and asked to, get wet and with sharks chasing her and to get into skiing things and get up climbing mountains and to firing crossbows, and she was game for it all. It was a lot of fun to work with her. Robin Young, who was winner of the Playboy contest, came out and did a small part in the flower shop in Cortina. The 1980 Winter Olympics inspired a lot of the public interest in these sports, and it was fun to figure out how we could take some of the traditional sports and adapt them to a James Bond film. I think going off the ski jump was one of the most spectacular. The problem was it snowed around Christmas, and then for 6 weeks it didn't snow, so All the snow you see here in the city has been trucked in from higher up in the mountains overnight. It took about 20 or 30 huge truckloads of snow to come in, put down on the streets, so we'd have something that looked like holiday. Tony Way recently come into the James Bond group. He and Tom Pevsner worked on many films together. They started out as associate producer and first assistant director, and they'd worked their way up. Tom Pevsner being the associate producer and Tony Way being the first assistant. They subsequently continued on becoming executive producers, and ultimately Tony Way is the executive producer on our films today. Remy Julian was a stunt driver and actually had a show in France where he did spectacular stunt driving, so he was famous in his own right. We brought him onto the Bond films for the motorcycle stunts up in Cortina on snow, which were fairly difficult. We had to have spiked tires to hold the traction, but we got a lot of exciting footage out of it. Willie Bogner has always been an important part of these snow and skiing sequences in the Bond films. When John Glenn was the second unit director, he used Bogner on many of our films, so they had a good relationship and knew how to work together. Finally, Willie became second unit director himself. One of the most exciting is the bobsled run, where he goes down the bobsled run on skis following the bobsled and used the camera that hung between his legs to do all the filming. Very often he would ski backwards. He had skis that would work in both directions, and he could start skiing facing downhill and then turn and end up skiing facing uphill. Of course, he was an Olympic champion.
It is the summer of 1979, and millions of James Bond fans around the world line up to see Moonraker. The question for legendary Bond producer Cubby Broccoli is, where does James Bond go from here? The answer proves to be simple. 007 needs to come back to Earth. To help shape Bond's entrance into the 1980s, producer Cubby Broccoli relies on the rising star of the James Bond creative team, his stepson, Michael Wilson.
With Moonraker, we went really, I think, pretty far along the track of touching on science fiction. It was a tremendously successful film. It was one of the most successful in the series, but I had a feeling that if we tried to go down that road, we would just become more and more outlandish until we got really silly. For Your Eyes Only was an attempt to sort of retreat from those excesses.
To help make this transition, Broccoli promotes a hard-edged action unit director from 3 previous Bond films, John Glenn.
When I got awarded the For Your Eyes Only to direct, we had long talks about how we were going to get the character back, get his feet literally back on the ground again.
To get the story right, Broccoli and Wilson turned to veteran screenwriter Richard Maybaum.
Well, I'd known Dick Maybaum since I was a teenager, and he'd written so many of the great Bond films. I started working with Dick. I was at that time the executive producer on the films, and as we got working more and more, he asked me to take a stab at writing a few things, and then he suggested we become collaborators.
For inspiration, Wilson and Maybaum returned to the works of 007's creator, Ian Fleming. Starting with 2 James Bond short stories, For Your Eyes Only and Risico, the writers develop a plot straight from Fleming's pen. Wilson and Maybaum even include a key sequence from the novel Live and Let Die. The working relationship proves fruitful. The writing team of Richard Maybaum and Michael Wilson shape a new vision of Bond for the 1980s.
As it happened, I was very pleased that Roger did it, because it helped me enormously in the fact that he was an established James Bond, If I had to take someone new and establish them in the role, it would have been quite difficult for me, I think.
Director Glenn brings in some new faces behind the cameras.
My background is documentaries. I started off in documentaries, and I used to direct and photograph when I was doing that, and that's how John knew me.
If you met Arthur, you wouldn't think he'd be an ace cameraman like that, because he wears thick glasses, and he tripped over the carpet when he first met Cubby Broccoli as he walked in the office, which wasn't a good start.
It's a great excitement because it was Bonds have always been a type of film that I've always wanted to do.
With acclaimed production designer Ken Adam unavailable, filmmakers turned to a familiar face. Peter Lamont, a 007 veteran since Goldfinger, worked his way up through the art department on 9 previous Bond films.
I was called by Eon and they said, who would you like to work for next? Ken's gone off to America with Herb Ross to do Pennies from Heaven. And I kind of said, well, why not me? And an hour or two later, I was the production designer.
Lamont's detailed and realistic designs reflect a new direction for the series.
We all sat down and Cubby said, we better tell you this right away. We're not going to spend that tough of money on the next Bond. I want Bond doing the detecting, and I don't want him to be overtaken by a lot of gadgets.
With the key team in place, filmmakers turned to casting.
We had Roger, and we were now looking for a leading lady.
Carole Bouquet was a French actress that I recommended to Cubby Broccoli to consider for the part.
She'd done some French films. She had the most gorgeous hair, and I immediately could see the crossbow sequence, the only Fleming element, and there she was, Melina. I could see her.
She has this extraordinary colour eyes. Most attractive, most lovely girl.
One of the loveliest people to ever play a Bond lead. The fact that she became the face of Chanel should prove that.
The heavy in the Bond is, of course, always of paramount importance to get the right heavy. And on this occasion, we chose Julian Glover.
And Julian, I'd had the pleasure of working a couple of times on the set, so it was nice being back with him. Again, good villain, good part.
Julian is a very sinister sort of character on the screen. A very good-looking man, in fact. There was some talk about him being a James Bond at one time.
He was just too young at the time to play Bond. And then when we got around to using him, he was a little too old. So he played one of the heavies later on. He was a very good actor.
Filmmakers find the other leading actor of the movie with a bit of serendipity at a party in London.
Dana Broccoli came across to me and said, Topol, what a good idea. Cobby, what do you think of Topol playing Colombo? And this is how I was cast.
Once in a while, they listen to me.
Topol, boy, he could rival Roger Moore in the charisma department.
Topol's sort of famous for playing Fiddler on the Roof. I don't think he can live it down. It's rather like being an ex-James Bond. You can never shake it off quite.
With casting complete, filmmakers begin layering the script with links to James Bond's past, including Bond's brief marriage.
It was John Glenn who came up with the idea of going to Tracy's grave. I think he wanted to show a continuity of the Bond stories and show that he's still the same character, he's still going on, he has a history.
Shooting begins on September the 2nd, 1980 in the North Sea and continues on September the 15th in Greece. The Villa Silvia near the Corfu Hilton doubles for the Spanish home of the assassin Gonzales. Among the extras is a model named Tula.
She was one of quite a number of very beautiful girls.
And 3 months after the film finished, it was revealed in the press that Tula was a man, or had been a man.
The fact that she may have turned out to be a chap was by and by, really, because she was so gorgeous. She was probably the most gorgeous of all the girls there, and very nice person as well.
In this early scene, the filmmakers set the tone for the action.
The Lotus car had been underwater, had missiles in it. It seemed to be a great arsenal for Bond. And to take that away from him at the very beginning, was an idea that to say, okay, we're starting off the picture by making Bond more reliant on his own wits.
At that time in New York, everyone's car was being stolen. And apparently when the film showed there, the audience just roared and clapped and applauded because they wished that would happen to everyone who stole their car.
Well, I hope you have a car.
This way.
The whole concept of James Bond running out and saying, "Where's your car?" and there you see a little de chevaux. It's just so sort of like anti-Bond. It was hilarious.
To film Bond and Melina's escape, Peter Lamont's crew turns the sleepy Greek town of Pagi into a Spanish village. And for the car stunts, John Glenn turns to Rémy Julien.
But he's almost a legend in car chase sequences, and his two sons are tremendous drivers.
Despite taking a more realistic approach to Bond, the filmmakers do not want to lose the important element of humour.
Love a drive in the country, don't you?
That was a very funny scene, and I had a lot to do with the design and planning of that sequence. And I desperately wanted to use the hillsides where they gather the olives and use the local colour. And we just adapted what was there and wrote it in a very amusing way. It's like a mix between James Bond and Keystone Cops. We love to thrill people. And there's nothing better than after a thrill to get the laugh.
On October the 6th, John Glenn prepares to shoot one of the largest hand-to-hand fight scenes to ever appear in a Bond film. Bob Simmons and his crew of stuntmen rehearse every move.
Bob Simmons, of course, you say James Bond, you have to say Bob Simmons because he was like another James Bond. Wonderful stuntman, probably the best stuntman we'd had at that time. I liked him very much, and he was very skillful and a man you could talk intelligently with. And he still liked to do the odd stunt himself.
Careful preparation helps tilt the odds against injury in a scene with over 30 stunt performers. It is all in a night's work on a Bond film. Of course, when filmmakers plan a major sequence, it isn't just the stunt performers who see action.
Shooting this time.
3, 4, 6, take 1.
Cut it! Cut it!
Blank firing weapons introduce another element of risk, and despite safety precautions, accidents do happen.
One of the blank bullets proved to be not so blank, and I got shrapnel very close to the eye. Lots of blood comes down, and it wasn't makeup. And Cobby was on the set, and he grabbed me. He didn't wait for the director to say print, and he ran with me to the doctor. And Cobby was my father's age. There's no wonder that we all loved him so much.
The next evening finds the crew in more elegant surroundings, the Ascalon Casino in Gasturi, Corfu, a palace built by Empress Elizabeth of Austria. For filmmakers, it provides the perfect atmosphere of elegance for a key scene in the film. And for James Bond, the tables offer a welcome high-stakes diversion. To play the part of Columbo's mistress, filmmakers cast an actress with a James Bond connection all her own.
We chose Cassandra Harris, who, as everyone probably knows, was Pierce Brosnan's wife. In fact, on the set in Corfu, Pierce arrived one weekend. A very handsome figure he cut too, you know. And
everyone, when they saw Pierce, thought he was just great and would make a great Bond.
That's when I first met Pierce, and he met Cubby, of course.
Cubby always put it in the back of his mind to sort of keep there.
On October the 15th, the crew moves to the cliffs above Corfu's old Turkish fort. The sequence calls for Bond to kill a man in cold blood. Roger Moore has his doubts.
In fact, I thought it was, although it's Bond, I thought it was a bit un-Roger Moore Bond to be that vicious, to kick a car over with somebody in.
Well, we had a discussion about it, and I think there was a question about whether we just toss the pin in as if that's enough to unbalance it. I thought it didn't give enough sort of energy.
As Derek Meddings and Peter Lamont prepare the Mercedes, tension on the set builds. All the key creative team agree this one moment will define James Bond for years to come.
Roger and I had quite a discussion about this. Roger had a reputation anyway. He'd done all those series on the Saints, and He'd done all these James Bond films before, and so he'd more or less set his character. So you couldn't depart too much for it. All you could do is show a harder edge to his character, and that's what I tried to achieve. And I think that helped the film. I think this gave him the strength of character, which I was looking for.
The next day, the cast and crew move across Greece to face a different kind of challenge. At the edge of the Pindus Mountains, atop 24 mammoth rock spires, sits the holy community of Meteora.
It's an incredible landscape. Years ago, the monks built monasteries on some of these rocks.
They have to carry everything up by a rope basket. There are no roads up.
We thought we'd done a deal with the local bishop to allow us to use an adjacent rock.
When we arrived, of course, the money that was paid over hadn't reached the local monks, so they refused to cooperate. In fact, they went out of their way to sabotage our filming.
There are 2 monks there who don't want us to film. I've no idea why.
This caused great consternation among the local inhabitants who lived in the cities, and they were prepared to actually go up and attack the monasteries and throw the monks out.
We managed to overcome the problem by building our own monastery on an adjoining rock where they had never built before.
The case actually went up to the Greek Supreme Court, and they convened a special body of judges. And they had to decide who actually controlled the right to use the land. Was it the monasteries or was it the local government? And it came out in favor of the local government, so they actually had to decide the issue after all that time.
To add verisimilitude to the Cold War climax of the story, filmmakers have a Polish Mi-2 helicopter flown in. Shooting the final confrontation comes nearly 4 months before the end of principal photography.
And action! No, Molina is not the answer. We'll turn him over to the Greek police.
Out of my way, James.
Each of the cast must find a way to catalogue this performance so that it meshes seamlessly with scenes to be shot weeks later at Pinewood Studios. Other challenges for the actors are not so cerebral.
Roger's not too good on heights.
And I had to do a sort of rock climbing and scaling edges of precipices. I've got to climb the other side, right?
Yes.
I've got to go around the other side.
No, you've got to climb that right-hand side there. See the edge
Yeah.
you see now? Yeah, that's the place.
It's always like, you want me to stand there? Well, looking down there, you've got to be joking.
Are you talking sex, you two, because you're being recorded?
Despite joking on the set, Moore's nerves get the best of him.
I took a lot of Valium and drank some warm beer to do that in the morning, I tell you.
For director Glenn, the climbing sequence gives him a chance to create a signature moment.
Hitchcock always used to make an appearance in his movies, and I suppose I had a similar idea when I always used to put my little trademark on all my films. I'd always use a pigeon coming out of an unexpected hole when Roger Moore's climbing the Meteora when he's like 400 feet off the ground. He puts his hand into a handhold and a pigeon flies out and nearly knocks him off the rock. I guess you could say that pigeon is my trademark.
We used a chap called Rick Sylvester for the double for some of the climbing on that.
He did the ski parachute jump in Spy Who Loved Me, and we used him again here to do a similar trick.
We had a sequence where Bond has to climb up the rock face. He gets kicked off and falls down and finishes up hanging on a rope.
That was quite a hairy old stunt. Everything was done for real.
Even if you're on a rope, if you fall far enough, the jerk you get can be very injurious.
I immediately went to special effects department. I threw myself on the mercy. You got to save my life. I told them I'm going to do this scene, and I don't know how to do this.
Derek Meddings, who was the special effects supervisor, built a trough to arrest his fall.
When I got to the end of the rope, we'd move these sandbags in this box. That would these heavy sandbags that would dampen the sudden deceleration, which is what could kill or injure you.
When I saw Derek Meddings' rig, I was a bit nervous because it was a real Heath Robinson affair. There was a man risking his life on the end of that rope.
The day we got there to the location, there was a funeral procession in the village. And then the box that the sandbags were in, it kind of resembled a casket. And also from the location site, we had a perfect view of the village cemetery. So you didn't have to be an English major, you know, for the symbolism not to be lost in you. I was worried about this. Letting go for a climber is, in a way, goes against the grain, because everything we work and train for is not to let go.
On a chilly October afternoon, Rick Sylvester lets go.
I get to the rope didn't break because I was still about 350 feet off the ground, and I was really happy, and I forgot I'm supposed to be stunned. I'm alive, it worked. And then I said, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to be unconscious. Then I kind of sagged. But luckily, this doesn't show.
He did a great job of the fall-off. He was very, very good. But unfortunately, he was quite a small man, and he was very difficult to make him look like Bond.
He's a big guy. He's around 6'5", and I'm more like 5'6". And so, you know, with the $700 wig and the cameras far enough away, you can almost think that I was Bond.
Back in England, John Glenn starts work on the film's pre-title sequence.
I got the idea many years ago when I was walking around Pinewood Studios, and I saw one of our technicians on a Sunday. He brought his young son into work. The boy had a remote-controlled car, and that gave me the spark to think about this remote-controlled helicopter. Mark Wolfe was the pilot, who was a superb helicopter pilot. It all took place around the chimneys and the industrial architecture of Beckton Gas Works, which was very spectacular.
It was incredible excitement, you know, when you hang underneath a helicopter and there's the knives and the blades swirling round, and the helicopter is doing all sorts of various maneuvers, and you're hanging underneath and you're enjoying it, you know. That was really incredible.
Derek Menes came up with a great scheme, because we had to get the helicopter, fly into one of these big halls, fly in and fly out, and it was quite a hairy old stunt.
And we were looking around this place for a building where we could actually fly a helicopter into this building for this particular sequence. And of course there wasn't one, but there was this enormous building which, had it had an entrance, would have been ideal. So I thought, if we did a foreground miniature to match this building and put the entrance in the miniature, we could use the real helicopter, line it up and fly it, and that's what we did.
And we had to build quite a major rig with a full-size helicopter on the end with rotors going round, which we mounted on a track going up the inside of the building.
We actually put Roger Moore inside this helicopter with the rotors going, and we shot all the exciting scenes inside the hangar where he's trying to find his way out of the building. I thought real stars were Mark Wolfe, the pilot, and particularly where he tips him down the chimney pot, you know.
While famed underwater director Al Giddings stages elaborate action in the Bahamas, John Glenn and his crew also face water problems in London.
Well, first of all, Carol Bouquet wasn't happy underwater.
Somewhere along the line they discovered that she couldn't dive because she had sinus trouble. The problem was, how were we going to get her to look as if she was underwater with Bond? It sort of fell to me to come up with a way of doing it.
They shot it in slow motion with wind machine and put on some masks, and we put the bubbles in, and Derek made them fit, and it worked like a dream. I think it fooled many people, actually.
After celebrating New Year's in London, the crew moves to the jagged peaks of the Dolomites in the Italian Alps. To play the young, but not so innocent, skating protege Bibi Dahl, the filmmakers cast real-life skating star Lynn Holly Johnson.
Such a sweet girl, but absolutely worried the life out of me, because I thought I was getting a bit long in the tooth even then, to be seen on the screen with a girl who was under 20.
Oh, Roger. He's just a madman. He is a nut. I don't think there's anybody in the world who loves his job more than Roger. I mean, he had 007 down.
Moore not only has to appear on screen with Lynn Holly, he has to ski next to a vivacious champion athlete.
To do close-ups of me, they had me sort of locked in on the back of a sled. There's one wonderful character in a long coat, sort of in front of the sled, going down on skis, so controlling the weight of the sled.
It's hard to balance on a sled.
For the more strenuous work on the slopes, John Glenn turns to German ski champion and filmmaker Willy Bogner. Bogner helped create snow sequences for On Her Majesty's Secret Service and The Spy Who Loved Me.
I had already done 2 Bonds before, and for Your Eyes Only, the big challenge was obviously to top the sequences, and I had the opportunity also to write the sequences by that time.
He and I, between us, and Michael as well, devised this scene which you see in the film.
Willie is this little man with the energy of 50 men. And he just has a vision of what he's going to shoot, and it doesn't matter how many times it takes to get that. He's going to get that shot, and he's going to have those explosions go off perfectly, and the skier just missing it perfectly.
He had a pair of skis that had, skis go up on the front. His went up on the front and the back, so he could ski forward and backwards. He used to have a camera that went between his legs. It was amazing to see him at work. Our biggest problem there was that it snowed over Christmas just before we got there, and then we virtually had no snow for the next 6 weeks.
But it was in fact ideal for our film because we were using motorcycles with spikes, and we didn't want deep snow. We wanted just a covering of snow.
It worked out really beautifully because Rémi Julien, the great stunt driver, he did a fantastic job with the motorbikes. It took a few broken arms and casts and things.
Skiers and motorcycle drivers don't just have to worry about snow, but also pure ice.
And I thought, if you had a Bob and then Bond on skis and then 2 motorbikes in the back, that would be really something else.
He approached me and he said, I'd love to ski down the Bob run following the Bobs along, you see. So I said, well, the only problem is the Bobs will go faster than you are because they're heavier. So we have to devise a way, to keep you at a certain distance. I said to him, I suppose you wouldn't consider being tied on to the Bob, would you? And he said, well, that's a good idea.
Throughout the early winter months of 1981, Willy Bogner and his team of skiers break all boundaries. For filmmakers John Glenn, Michael Wilson and Cubby Broccoli, the risk is just as real. At stake, the fate of the world's most popular fictional character. When For Your Eyes Only premieres on Wednesday, June the 24th, 1981 at London's Leicester Square Odeon Theatre, critics and fans alike hail the return of the classic James Bond. The film is an instant smash and sets the course for 007 throughout the 80s.
The score of For Your Eyes Only was written by Bill Conti, who retained some John Barry-influenced brass elements into the score, but also added elements of dance and funk music. The title song was written by Conti and Michael Leeson and was sung by Sheena Easton, who was the only title song artist to appear on screen in a Bond film, as designer Morris Binder liked Easton's appearance and decided to add her to the opening credits. For Your Eyes Only was premiered at the Odeon, Leicester Square in London on the 24th of June 1981.
And here now is the first car in the royal procession tonight. The arrival of His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales with Lady Diana Spencer. A moment that the crowds have been waiting for hours and hours. And the lovely Princess Margaret, Countess of Snowdon, looking very pretty and feminine with this frilled dress. Both choosing shades of red, Lady Diana and Princess Margaret, as they come into the foyer of the Odeon, having been met by Alan Harris Quelch, the general manager of the theatre. His Grace, the Duke of Buccleuch, is here to greet them, and the Duchess of Buccleuch. Lady Holland Martin is in the green dress, chairman of the Central Executive Committee of the NSPCC, and Cubby Broccoli, of course, the producer of this Bond film. And the Duke of Buccleuch, moving around, he had a riding accident some 10 years ago, which is why he is in a wheelchair. And Prince Charles talking with Cubby Broccoli there. And the Duke of Buccleuch presenting now. Dr. Alan Gilmore, Mr. George Wilson, from the two charities tonight, and Mrs. Anthony Wigram, who's joint chairman of the NSPCC Organising Committee, in the green off-the-shoulder dress, the green and white, and Lord Colgrane, the joint treasurer of Radar, who in fact will be presenting the people upstairs to His Royal Highness. What a very pretty dress that Lady Diana is wearing, with the shoulder straps, fine shoulder straps, lovely sparkle in silver in this red silk taffeta dress. And as they come up the stairs, they pass these beautiful flowers. They're pink peonies, they're white lilies, marvellous perfume from some of them too, because they are freesia. And the party progress up the stairs now. Lovely looking Lady Diana with a very pretty necklace and earrings to go with her red dress. She's wearing rubies and diamonds. And this is Mrs. Harry Fitzgibbons, joint chairman of the NSPCC Organising Committee, who's been fundraising for this charity for some 8 years. And Lady Diana talking to Mrs. Fitzgibbons, whose daughter Leonora is presenting the bouquet to Lady Diana tonight. Lady Caroline Gilmore there. Dean Stolber, United Artists Executive Vice President. And Michael Williams-Jones, who at the beginning of this year was appointed Senior Vice President and Foreign Manager for United Artists. And Lady Diana having a chat there with Cubby Broccoli, who's presenting the people in the line-up to her. Very pretty summery dress and that lovely smile with those gorgeous dimples that have won the hearts of the nation, I think, in such a short time. I'm quite sure that this will be a film that the royal party will all enjoy. There's lots of excitement. And they're having good long conversations. That's Mr. John Essen, who's Managing Director in the United Kingdom for United Artists, and Harry Smith, who's Chairman of the Rank Organisation. The Odeon in Leicester Square, of course, perhaps the flagship of the Rank Cinemas. There's been many a royal premiere here in the past, but this must be a night of all nights. And back with Lady Diana Spencer. I wonder if she's a James Bond fan. Diamond looped earrings. Very delicate necklace. His Royal Highness Prince Charles, talking with Peter Lamont. Moving along the line now to Lynn Holly-Johnson, who of course combines two talents, her acting and her skating in this film. She started both when she was 4 years old. Actually, when she was 4 years old, as far as filming was concerned and acting, she was taking part in television commercials. And as for the skating, she followed in the steps of her brothers and sisters, who she used to watch from a very early age. A very pretty girl, very excited about being here tonight, I'm sure. And Lady Diana having a word now with Lynn Holly-Johnson. Very pretty adornment in her hair too. Princess Margaret, as you can see in the background, with a lovely diamond and ruby necklace, I think, talking to Topol. And now His Royal Highness is greeting Julian Glover, an actor whose leading roles have taken him into television, theatre and films, of course. He's spent several seasons with the Royal Shakespeare Company, the National Theatre Company, and in many West End productions. And Lady Diana saying hello there to Sheena Easton, perhaps trying to catch her fiancé up. She's talking with Julian Glover, who also, I gather, has so enjoyed this film. And Michael Wilson, the executive producer of For Your Eyes Only and co-author of the screenplay, which recreates characters and plots from a number of short stories by Ian Fleming. And I think that a lot of people want to have as many a glance as they can at Lady Diana. She has now greeted Michael Wilson. very delicate, shimmery glitter on this dress of Lady Diana's. The director of the film, John Glenn, making his feature film directing debut, although of course he's worked on 3 previous 007 films as senior editor and action director, and very much involved in that way in those famous spectacular sequences. Talking now with Dana Broccoli, the wife of Cubby, the producer of this film. I understand that Mrs. Broccoli has many an idea for the films and little sequences in them, and what's more, Cubby very often accepts them. And a lovely picture of Roger Moore and His Royal Highness, and to Roger Moore's left his wife Louisa. They have 3 children, but suntanned, debonair, sophisticated, just as James Bond special agents should look. And you can just see how much excitement there is tonight. And the fact we have His Royal Highness, Lady Diana and Princess Margaret for this very special occasion. Lots of photographers from all over the world, it seems. You can see somebody's just walked in front of us now. This is in fact a very special watch. It plays the 007 theme, and it's been made for the senior members of the production. And Roger Moore has presented His Royal Highness, and he's graciously accepted it. Oh my goodness, this must be a picture of all time, I would think, wouldn't it? Lady Diana, for your eyes only, James Bond, Roger Moore. And then Lady Diana is now receiving, in fact, a bouquet from Leonora Fitzgibbons, daughter of the joint chairman of the organising committee of the NSPCC.
Julian Glover, alias Christatos, nice to have you with us this evening. Now, how does someone from a traditional theatrical background at Stratford-on-Avon and the West End and all those great classical roles end up as a baddie in a Bond film?
Well, the reason I got this one was because I played arguably the nicest person of the 20th century, Alexander Dubček of Czechoslovakia, and the producer of the film, Cubby Broccoli, saw this and thought I would be absolutely right for the villain in the James Bond film. Something went wrong somewhere along the line, because if I'm going to play a nice person and I get the villain, I don't quite know what happened, but I got it, and I'm well pleased.
Without giving too much away, Julian, this is a villain with a difference. It's not in the classical Bond mould, is it?
No, he's not. I mean, he doesn't have laser beams coming out of his nose and steel teeth and things like that. He's, I suppose, he's a recognisable animal as a human being. He's very rich, which is not very recognisable. A Greek businessman who deals in all sorts of very legitimate things, but we discover later that he deals in other things which perhaps he shouldn't be, and he has a very cruel personal streak. But that doesn't necessarily make him the villain, you see. That's the great thing about this picture. You don't actually know who the villain is until about 2/3 of the way through the picture.
I've got to quote something at you. Oh. Charming, enigmatic, ruthless and urbane. That apparently is Christatos, but how much of that is you?
My wife would echo all that. I think that's absolutely straight down the line. No, that's the idea, that he should be very nice. He should be a very nice, recognisable guy. And in fact, he's engaged in promoting a young skater to win the Olympics, and he's putting all his money into that, and that's what he wants very much. And he seems to be totally altruistic in all his attitudes, but then later on things change slightly, and Bond believes him to be the person he seems to be, and but then there is another person as well in the film who also may not be what he seems to be, and that I think is the difference in this picture between the normal Bond film and this one.
We better not give away too much of the plot.
No.
We want the paying customers, don't we?
Absolutely. Come on.
You nearly didn't get this job, didn't you?
I nearly didn't get this job because I was doing a film in Greece and I didn't have any time off to come and see the producers of the film. But suddenly one morning, a Saturday morning at 12 o'clock, I realised that I might be able to get a plane from Athens to London, and I got here, did the interview on the Sunday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, got the plane out at 1 o'clock, and I was back on the set at 5 o'clock on the Monday morning in Greece, 5 hours from Athens, and I got the part, thank God.
Have you had any sort of criticism from your theatrical friends?
You mean adverse criticism?
That's right.
No, I've had nothing but adulation. I mean, not adulation, they've been thrilled for me. To do a job like this is a job in a lifetime.
Julian Glover, Christatos, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I don't know about all the cheers outside there are here, but I'm having a cheer in my heart because I'm with Topol, and that's a lovely moment. That one name, I know your first name is Chaim Topol, so why do you just call yourself Topol?
Oh, I don't call myself Topol. I mean, I call myself Chaim Topol, and if you'll call me Topol, I'll call you Chalmers. Call me Chaim, I'll call you Judith.
Right, well, I'm calling you Chaim then. What does that name mean, actually?
Well, Chaim means life. When we say to life or lechaim, we mean to life. And Topol means poplar tree, and it's a Russian name, actually.
When people think of your name and hear your name, they smile, they think wonderful, and they also think of Fiddler on the Roof.
Right.
Now, apart from all the other parts you play, does that concern you that they think mainly of that?
Not at all. I'm very happy. I was very happy with that part. It did me a lot of good. A lot of enabled me to do other things, build a house, raise a family. So I can't really complain. No, thank you very much for remembering me.
If I were a rich man, in fact, that applies now through that probably, doesn't
Oh, well,
it?
I was doing not too badly before that, yeah.
Do you find that people whistle the song very much?
The people, I'm
Whistle
sorry?
the song, if I were
Oh,
a rich man?
yes. I mean, whenever I come on a set, it can be 5 years after the show or 10 years after the show. I come on a set and I know that in 5 minutes someone will whistle it on the scaffolding up there.
That's
and
rather nice, isn't it?
It usually happens.
What about this? It was a completely different kind of role for you as Columbo in the Bond film, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean, yes, Columbo is a different part from Tevye, but I'm trying to widen my range of roles as wide as possible. This is why I'm an actor, because I'd like to do different things.
And changing nationalities too is something you can do as an actor, from an Israeli to a Greek too.
Well, this time I'm a Greek, yeah. Originally I'm an Israeli. I've played a Russian, a Pole, a Polish Jew.
What's the most lovely moment for you in the film, Chaim?
In the Bond, or I mean, from the first day to the last day, really, we had fun, and I hope the audience will have fun.
Well, it's nice to beat 007 to it and get the girl, first of all, in the shape of Lynn Holly Johnson, who plays the part of Bibi.
Right.
Lynn, a few years ago, you were a professional skater with a very successful career. Now, a starring role in a James Bond movie. How in heaven's name did it happen?
I fell into the acting part of it quite by accident. I got my first part in Ice Castles when they looked for a skater, and I was a skater. So, and this Cubby Broccoli loved Ice Castles, so he looked for me for this part.
But you haven't just been skating all these years, you have been acting as well, haven't you?
Well, I acted in commercials, which I don't really consider acting too much, from the age of 5 to 12, back in Chicago.
Now, let me ask you about this character you play. What age is she again?
She's 18, but she thinks she's, like, whenever she's in front of James Bond, she thinks she's about 30, or 25 at least, and she acts very mature, and it's really funny, because she just doesn't come off as very mature, and it's a big joke.
We wouldn't exactly describe her as innocent.
No. She thinks she knows everything, and she's going to catch James Bond.
And does she? Better not answer that.
No, I'm not going to tell.
Now, all the ladies out there obviously envy you. The business of working with 007 himself. What was it like?
They don't envy me because I didn't catch him.
They all envy you because you worked with him, I think.
Right. It was a great experience. He's wonderful. Roger, he's just such a gentleman and so classy and great sense of humor.
And what are you off to do next?
Well, I don't know yet. It kind of depends on the director's strike.
In America?
Yeah.
But obviously, you are now settled in an acting career.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. But I'm keeping up my skating.
Roger Moore, 007 for the 5th time and fit as a fiddle. How do you do it, dare I ask?
I play the fiddle.
Roger, this James Bond's a little bit different. The characters seem more realistic, even the baddies, and there isn't the gadgetry. The stunt work's terrific. Have you tried in any way to tailor your character as Bond to suit that formula?
No, I just wander through saying my name is Bond, James Bond. Sometimes I say it's Brooke, but most of the time it's James. No, I'm delighted with this one. The fact that the villains are more recognizable as ordinary human beings. They don't want to build empires in space or under the ocean.
You have been, I know it's going back in history a little bit, you've been Ivanhoe and the Saint and the Persuaders. Is there, and your recent films as well have been very much action films. Is there a danger of being typed as a sort of an action man character in the film world?
Do you know what the royalties are from being an action man?
I don't know. You care to tell us? Perhaps you better not.
Well, I don't know. When I was a kid, boys didn't play with dolls. We had trains and Meccano sets. But today they all have action men. And if that's what they're buying, I'm an action man.
Right. But you're an actor as well.
Well, I have an equity card that says so.
Is there any plans to develop into other things? I know that actors, some of the actors have been going into directing recently.
Well, I have in the past directed in television. I have not yet directed a feature film. I've been offered a couple, but also without me in them, which was rather flattering. But people are still sort of offering me a lot of money to play pictures. Must be mad.
Julian Glover assures me that you're an awful lot of fun doing these movies. How accurate is he?
Well, yeah, I have to have fun when I'm working. Work is fun to me, but if there is an atmosphere on the set of tension, then I'm gone. I have to wander off in a corner and I become a recluse. But otherwise, I like to make fun, I like to play jokes, and I like people to play jokes on me, which they do.
Just for the chaps watching, what's it like to be a lady killer?
Am I?
Apparently so.
That'll do when my wife and daughter are standing over there. We'll talk about it a little later.
The stunt work is tremendous. Have you ever been tempted, fit as you are, to take part in the stunt end of it?
Well, I do all of them, actually. And I do all my own lying.
And you don't tell Cubby Broccoli about it?
Well, I'm doubled in love scenes. I'm not good after the third take.
I see. Well, finally, Roger, I got the feeling that 007 perhaps was feeling the recession bite a little bit. You went from a rather flash Lotus to
a deux chevaux.
A deux chevaux.
Well, they're rather splendid, actually. I mean, because when you get them scratched or hit, you don't get the bill that you do for an Aston Martin or a Rolls Royce.
For Your Eyes Only was released in the UK on the 24th of June 1981 and in the US 2 days later. It received a mixed to positive critical reaction. The film's reputation has improved over time, with reviewers praising the more serious tone in comparison to previous entries in the series.
Hold tight!
Oh, by the way, we haven't been properly introduced, Melina. My name is Bond. James Bond.
That's Roger Moore in the 12th James Bond movie, For Your Eyes Only, which is one of 4 new summer films we'll be reviewing on Sneak Previews. Across the aisle from me, Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And across the aisle from me is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
Okay, I haven't liked the James Bond film, to move on to our next picture, since Thunderball 16 years ago, and that also means I haven't liked a single James Bond film that has starred Roger Moore as Agent 007. The recent Bond films, especially the ones with Moore, have been just gadget shows slapped on top of stupid stories. Until now, I think. Until For Your Eyes Only, which returns, I think, to what made the old Bond films so entertaining in the first place. They were good thrillers first, and then on top of that, they gave us the gadgets, the women, and the fabulous locations. For Your Eyes Only is pretty much one long and exciting chase scene after another, with Bond trying to recover a British nuclear device before the Russians capture it. Helping Bond is Carol Bouquet, one of the best-looking Bond women of all time. She pops up in the same Alpine village as Bond to give him a hand, and now her life, too, is being threatened.
Is this the one you mean, Signora?
Thank you. I'll take it. Deliver it to the Hotel Cristallo, please.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Buongiorno. May I help you?
Yes, give me a dozen lilies, will you? I'll pick them up later. Come on, quick. Send them to the funeral, will you? Hey, slow down. Now, would you mind telling me what the devil you're doing in Cortina?
Your telegram.
What telegram?
It said you found a man and to meet you here today.
I didn't send a telegram. Now, get in. The station, please.
Are we leaving?
Not we, you, and now.
You don't tell me what to do.
Stazione, per favore.
Now, movie fans may recognize Carol Bouquet from her role in a much more serious film a couple years ago, Louis Buñuel's The Obscure Object of Desire. Now, eventually, Bond and Bouquet find themselves tied together at the end of a rope attached to the enemy's boat. One of the agents is working for the Russians, and he's about to drag Bond across a razor-sharp coral reef. But Bond isn't worried.
Oh, leave the legs free. They'll make appetizing bait.
I didn't think it would end like this.
We're not dead yet.
Take a deep breath.
This is a very exciting film with some of the best chases I've seen since, well, 3 weeks ago, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Also, the villains in this film are quite believable characters, not silly cartoon figures as in the last few Bond pictures. Good chases, credible villains, a beautiful woman. That's more than enough for me to recommend For Your Eyes Only.
Well, I liked it too, and I would recommend it too, but I did not enjoy it nearly as much as you did in terms of going all the way back to movies like Dr. No and From Russia with Love. Those were the real classics as far as I'm concerned. And this movie, I don't know, maybe it's because there have been too many Bond pictures, but I felt as if I'd seen many of these ingredients before in other movies, like the ski chase and the underwater stuff.
Well, those things have been done, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is the following. I thought when the beginning Bond pictures, everybody was out to try and prove something. They were inventing a genre, as it were. And I thought they did a very good job. Then, with Roger Moore, I think everybody got overconfident, and they thought they could put in any star and do anything and be sloppy and throw in a lot of commercial plugs, and it would still sell all around the world, which it did. Now, I think with this film, I detect a change. I think that somebody's really trying here to move a picture along, move it, be a little rougher, a little more with a believable picture. rather than these silly laugh at the villain films.
I'll tell you, Gene, the last thing I'm looking for in a James Bond picture is believability. And I really like the villains that they had in some of the previous pictures who were totally creations of fantasy.
No, but what I'm talking about are the two pictures you named, Dr. No and From Russia with Love, are a little rough. Fine, but those were very exciting, and they were a little harder, a little tougher, and that's what I liked about it.
Well, I think you're looking for the right things in the Bond pictures, but I don't think I found those things in this picture.
And 2 strong yes votes for the latest James Bond film, For Your Eyes Only. It has one great chase scene after another.
Now, about this show, what do we like the most? Probably SOB, right?
That's the one that I would go to see first, and then after SOB, I'd go to see the James Bond picture.
And then after that, you go to see Dragon's Lair. Actually, after 6 months in 1981 of really slow going at the box office, things are pretty good right now.
A fabulous movie summer.
For Your Eyes Only was released by Warner Home Video on UK VHS release in 1982.
Try